How can I get more prospects? Higher quality, right fit prospects calling you, emailing you, signing up to meet with you. This is organic growth. It is what we do at Ficomm. And I often get the question, hey, how do I grow? How do I do this? It's the big picture question. We're going to talk about it today. I'm going to share a 4-phase systematic approach to organic growth and kind of approach this as a coffee chat. I just made myself a fresh cup of coffee. We're going to talk about this as I would if we were at lunch together or having coffee before the workday. My name is Carolyn. I'm a VP and strategic lead at Ficomm Partners. For the past decade, I've been helping financial advisors grow their businesses using a variety of methods, but it's always anchored in a very intentional approach. So Ficomm talks about this. It's the work we do with clients. I'm going to speak to it the way I do. If you chat and interact with other Ficomm team members, they might use different words, but we're all looking at the same approach. So you want to grow the practice. You want more clients. How? What we see is typically teams are trying some things. They have sent out some mailers. They've been hosting some events. Maybe they've had a webinar. Maybe they have been blogging or trying some social media. Maybe even you have a podcast or you've started videos on YouTube. Whatever you've tried locally, digitally, it's all fair game. But if you're asking this question, it's usually because what you're trying doesn't feel like it has an intention. It doesn't feel like it's all tied together. And worst of all, it's not working. You're kind of feeling like you're spinning your wheels or you're scattered. So what is working for high growth firms? What actually works in practice? We have data about this, so I will link a couple of research reports below, but here's the conversation around it to get you started and thinking in the right ways. There are really 4 phases to approaching organic growth, and you have to progress through each phase for it to work. What we see sometimes is people are skipping ahead to what we call phase 3, and that's why what they're trying isn't working. Phase 1 won't be super surprising to most of you. Phase 2 will be. So let's get into it. Phase 1 is all about clarity. In phase 1, you're actually not producing any marketing. You are sitting down and talking about very important parts of your growth. So imagine you set aside 2 months where every week you are deeply thinking about growth. We walk our clients through this, but to paint a picture of what this looks like, you are going to get clarity on your strategy. The first thing is, what's the goal? What is our actual goal? What's the measurable goal? And also, if we were to hit that measurable goal, how do we picture the firm changing? What will have changed? What are we really trying to do here? What is the ideal state? You also want to get clarity on, okay, who are our top clients? And not just our top clients in terms of assets under management, because that's only one factor, but actually who is fulfilling to serve? Who is a joy to work with? Who really values what we do? So looking at the whole client, not just the assets. When you get clear on your ideal client and you really focus on this and you look at them, ideally you're interviewing them and asking them some key questions to get to know them even better. You can then look at this information and say, okay, let's choose one top client that we want to replicate again and again and again. And you create this as a growth asset. Okay. We call it in the business, we'll call it your ideal client profile. But really all this is a deep, detailed look at the human you are trying to resonate with. You will know what's on their mind. What is their top concern? What's their exact age? And therefore, where do they land in the life cycle of preparing for retirement? You will know their family. You will know their dreams. You will know everything about this person. Then we get clarity on the message for them. So we're still in the clarity phase here. We know your goal. We know the ideal client you want to replicate again and again and again, and it's based on reality. Then you develop a message for that client. This is where some of the art begins to come into play. So some people will say, well, I'm not really a good writer, like this is an art form, but we want to develop a message that speaks to who you are as a team and brings that message out into the public in a way that your ideal client would want to see it. The last part of clarity is thinking like, what is our offer to them? Like, how do we change them? What is the first conversation we can have with them? So that is clarity. Once you come out of the clarity phase, you are armed with specific and documented decisions on what you're trying to do, right? What's the goal, who you are really trying to connect with, and also your differentiated message and offer for that person. Phase 2, we start to execute. And in phase 2, what the vibe of it is you're elevating. You are elevating your digital presence. You are elevating your client communications, and you are elevating your center of influence relationships so that everything is completely aligned with strategy. What this elevation phase looks like is usually a look at all of your digital, every profile that exists, your entire website, your team's LinkedIn profiles, anything that comes up on Google, and any routine videos or events, anything you're doing is looked at and completely elevated so that's refined to the new message. This is a heftier phase. So this is now you're in more of the creation. You are working on your assets and you're deploying the message in the right places. You also get client communications. One thing that we see in this second phase is sometimes firms hit their goals just by doing the second phase. When you spend a good year in elevated client communications and proactive strategic center of influence relationships, referrals go up. They are better referrals. They are a better fit. They can go up market for certain people. But the referrals are the first thing you'll see as a business result in phase 2. And like I said, some firms are actually hitting their goals based on just the increase in referrals. Then phase 3, so let's say, okay, you have all the clarity of the strategy. You've elevated your digital presence, your client communications, and your center of influence relationships. Okay, phase 3, once referrals are humming, now you're ready to expand, basically, where you are going to diversify your lead sources. So this might be where you start to do paid advertising. This is where we might start to talk about PR, because your firm is now strategic and your digital presence and client communications are ready for diversifying. You're primed and you are completely at the point where, okay, now we can look at maybe, do you launch a big podcast initiative? Do you hire a PR firm? Do you go deep on SEO or paying for Google ads? We can now expand lead sources because the foundation is ready. What we usually see, if you remember kind of how I kicked off this conversation, is people are coming to us and they're saying, I've been doing PR, I've been doing paid, I've been doing referral programs, I've been doing all these things. I hired a graphic designer, but they haven't actually gotten clarity on strategy, on message, nor have they turned their digital presence and client communications to match that strategy. Okay, and then the fourth phase is for larger teams. There can be a fourth phase, which is to basically scale this work and turn every advisor individually into a growth engine. So this is where you deploy programs that help each advisor go through the first 3 phases, but within the context of your brand, right? So there's going to be a brand level message, but they have to fit into, but they're going to be able to turn on their own channels by getting clear on their differentiated message as an individual on the team. They're going to elevate their digital presence and they're going to expand their proactive center of influence referrals. They're going to elevate their client communications and events. All of this can be scaled at the advisor level as well. Okay, so that's a lot. That is, though, how to think and approach organic growth. Clarity on strategy. Elevate digital, your client communications and centers of influence. You can then expand your lead sources and diversify where leads come from, things like PR and paid referral programs. And then 4 is scaling it, turning each advisor into their own channel. Now, there are bound to be questions in your mind because this video is spent on the overlooking progression through. But as you think about where you are in the phases and you want to apply this in your firm, please do send a question. I make these videos on Dear Ficomm as our free and open advice column for financial advisory firms. So I would love to answer that question in an upcoming video. Submit it below, and otherwise I will see you in the next episode.